I don't know which one you would say has been more of a success right now.
Don't you? I still feel like Drew Lock's being judged too harshly.
Me too, by the way.
He's only played 2 seasons.
Mitt, you're back there. You were a Broncos fan for like a year and a half, and then you became a Cowboys fan. There's a couple games where Drew Lock dominated.
Lit it up.
Houston, I think, like 2 years ago or something like that, is when he came on the scene. Then there's obviously the memes and the gifts or whatever. And I guess because he was a second-round pick, he doesn't get as much leeway because it was a second-round pick
He
or
was
something.
at the draft, too, and he was the one that dropped that everyone was like looking at, like, oh, look
And his
Drew
boys
Lock.
were cool, by the way.
Yeah.
His boys were cool.
The big thing about Drew Lock that I would say is he's a big team and camaraderie guy. I think last year really threw him off. If you remember, the Broncos had that QB situation where he wanted to take everyone's mask off, and that ended in them starting a receiver at quarterback.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they had to run off the field.
Okay, during the walkthrough.
Yeah.
The day before the game, they were told the entire quarterback position's got to run off the field. And by the way, nobody that is even associated with them can play tomorrow. So we got to actually get somebody who hasn't played quarterback since they were at Wake Forest their junior year. Mm-hmm. And they don't know anybody on the team or the roster.
And for Sam Darnold, he's been under Gase, who is a person who people say, once you get away from Gase, your career's going to take off. So it's just both of them.
I just think Drew Lock, and Denver Broncos fans, obviously, I assume they might be ready to move on, and I don't know how they feel about this. I think one Broncos fan tweeted me, and I don't know if they are the sample of the entire Broncos fan base, but they're like, feels like we're just getting right back into the quarterback carousel here with getting. How many years does Teddy have? Just 1 year? This is just a 1 year thing?
He has 2 left on his current contract.
But they restructured. How'd they restructure it? Yeah. Will they have to pick up the 3rd year for Teddy there? There's so much going on. Everybody's just trying to find a guy, it sounds like. Everybody just wants to find a guy, and they hope they can find a guy, and they got to move guys and do things. But I think Drew Lock, who's going to win, Drew Lock or Teddy Bridgewater? I assume Teddy Bridgewater.
Oh, yeah.
Just because Teddy Bridgewater has a lot more. But what if Drew Lock comes in and lights it the fuck up in camp? And Teddy's just the backup there? And they're like, well, Teddy's been a great backup in the past. And then Teddy, though, was looking for a trade because he didn't want to be a backup. Teddy Bridgewater, I'm happy you found a new home. I wish you would have won somewhere you've been able to start, but this feels like this is going to be a bit of a clusterfuck to figure out.
Teddy's starting to go on that Fitzpatrick run.
Yeah.
More like Tyrod. He's becoming more. He's unlucky as hell.
Unlucky.
Hey, if you're Drew Lock, would you rather the team bring in Teddy Bridgewater, or would you rather him take a QB number 1?
Well, take QB number 1, you're out.
I know. Then it's like, okay, well, my best case scenario, I start this first year, the rookie's not good enough, and I can showcase myself to the rest of the league. But with Teddy, if there's a competition, you could win the job and try to hopefully prove that you are the franchise QB.
You were never a part of a quarterback competition team, right? Brett and Aaron were never actually in a competition.
No.
See, that's what I'm talking about, though. Brett was always the guy. This is the backup. I don't know. I just feel it's good for the team, and it even gives the quarterbacks like a little bit of an out when they're talking to their teammates or friends. It's like, hey, we're not making this decision. This is the guy. Let's go ahead and do that. It kind of gives them, as opposed to trying to win over an entire locker room, okay, and somebody else trying to win over an entire locker room because a quarterback, that's what you got to do. And then a decision is made, and it's like automatically people are going to be like, well, I just think that's a messy thing, but it's the NFL. I guess everybody can just handle it. I think about the locker room at all times. That's like kind of my immediate thought is like, when I was in the NFL, it felt like teams that were good, great locker room. Locker room got along. When we stunk, I'll tell you what, locker room hated each other. How do you make locker room hate each other? Well, you divide them right in half. How do you do that? Well, here's one quarterback, here's another quarterback. Well, it's just, I feel like that's bad business, personally.
I'm with you. I would like to see somebody dive into the stats and look it up and see if, like, what's the best record a team has had coming off a training camp where they had an open QB competition, where someone was named a starter like a week or two before week 1. Like, has anyone had a ton of success with that?
Well, and then you automatically go, well, if they're having a competition, that means they didn't feel good about either quarterback. So how good were either quarterback? Like there's always excuses and deeper stats I can look into it, but I just don't know how that is conducive to building a team, which is what you need in football. You need like a team.
You need defined roles and a defined vision of what this is. Hey, like what a great leader, a great coach does. He gets everyone going in the same direction from all different walks of life, and however creative way they can do that to keep people engaged. But if you have 2 guys vying to be the most important position in this billions and billions of dollar franchise, yeah, like there's just too many questions everywhere. Like, oh, how'd it go today, man? Who do you think the starter is going to be today? Like the whole team's talking back and forth, and they all secretly or openly have their favorite who they think should be the starter too.
And by the way, it's not just the players; it's the coaches. It's the athletic trainers.
And it's players asking coaches, like, they're like, Coach, man, when are they gonna name a starter, man? Like, that's all the media keeps asking me. Like,
We
when
all
are we doing
see,
this?
we all see, don't we? We all see. There's a lot of that'll start happening, and I'm not. It's not just players. What I was saying there, even like advertising people who are talking to local companies are like, we all hope that blah 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 is our starter, but we don't know. Like, it's just, I feel like, and you don't. By naming one person a starter and saying, hey, you're the starter, you're empowering that person, you're not putting down the other person either. The other person then understands, like, okay, I'm back. We want you to be a starter, though. We want you to take every rep. Obviously, if things don't work out as well, you're going to get an opportunity. Like, I don't know. That's why I'm not a GM, though. So maybe I shouldn't talk about it. But I feel like that is a very important fucking thing that doesn't get talked about.
Well, and that's why the Saints doesn't make any sense either. It's like, why wouldn't you just tell Taysom Hill, hey, you're just going to be the gadget guy going forward no matter what, where it seems as though they're telling him, hey, this is an open competition. It's you versus Jameis.
I think Sean and Taysom are very tight.
Yeah.
Because Taysom wouldn't agree to a 4-year, $160 million all voidable contract if they weren't boys, right? I assume those two are boys. And maybe he did tell him that, but the narrative outside isn't that Jameis is automatically going to be a starter. Maybe take pressure off of Jameis. Maybe, like that whole, maybe that is something that we have no idea.
No clue.
What is happening. But I'm not you got to figure it out somehow, I guess. You got to find out who the starter is if you actually do believe in them both. But I think by doing that and creating that competition and making people better, I think you're potentially also taking away from a lot of other stuff that is vital to success. I don't know. I think you could still get the starter better with good competition without, potentially burying somebody. But I just think you have to define, this is our guy. If he stinks, he won't be our guy. That's why we got this guy. Mm-hmm. I don't know. If Teddy's going to be your starter, as soon as you trade today, Teddy's going to be our starter. Drew Lock, who has done great things with us in the past, will back up. If Teddy struggles to learn the offense or figure out the offense or something like that, obviously Drew Lock will get his opportunity. Like, I think there's a statement that you can make there that really is just very quick and easy. And if it's Drew Lock, do the opposite.
That's what the Bears did with Dalton, even though Foles is still there.
And bingo, they didn't do it with Mitchell Trubisky
Correct.
and Nick Foles. They said open competition. That became fucking all hell broke loose. I feel like
I was gonna say that, Pat. Is this something that the Bears should get a little bit of praise for? That, hey, they took that equation out of it. We don't have to worry about our quarterback, whether you agree or not. Andy Dalton is our guy. We're going to try to figure out the rest of this mess we have around him.
Well, and they didn't do that last year. So maybe they learned it, and they have the same exact feeling that we have now. And I don't think I've ever been on a team that has had that, by the way. But my thought of that happening, you can see how it easily could be like in the locker room. Just, you never want small groups chatting. Okay, in the locker. Yeah. Like, when you can start getting small groups chatting, that is when it's like, all right, here's clicks here, here's clicks here. It's natural that people are gonna just follow one particular style of leadership over another particular style of leadership. So you're kind of fucking both players, I think. Actually, it's like, but whenever you say this is starter, this is the backup, there are like, okay, this is exactly how we look at it. And then, by the way, the teammates of the backup, whether Drew Lock is named a backup, they'll go, hey, Drew, hey, you'll get your chance. Hey, we're going to need you. Like, there's still like
stay ready.
It's still a positive interaction for everybody. And even Drew can be like, hey, I got to work here. I got to do my thing. You know what I mean? It's just, I don't know. We might be too dumb, though, to shape anybody's opinions on this entire thing. I'm sure somebody will tell us that we're completely wrong and it's the NFL. They got to be fucking adults.